What's up, everybody? So today we're going to talk about contract manufacturing, which is what we do here at Slant 3D. We use hundreds of 3D printers to produce hundreds of thousands of parts for clients all over the world. Everything from print-on-demand Etsy stores to mass production for customers who are trying to replace injection molding. But it is a fantastically difficult industry to be in, so we're going to kind of explain why that is in this video and explain how we've managed to deal with it. So contract manufacturing is absolutely the most difficult industry that you can be in. Well, maybe not the most difficult. Robotics is really hard, but it's one of the really hard ones. Any sort of service industry where you are providing contract services, whether it be marketing or design or engineering or manufacturing, are all very difficult industries to be in. The first reason that makes it the most difficult is, number one, it's not your product and it's not your company. When you hire a contract manufacturer, you are hiring us to do a job for you. And that's totally fine. We have an area that we work in and that we know very well, and you're using our expertise to help you on your product journey. And it's really great to outsource inside of a company because no company should diversify themselves, especially when they're starting. But the problem is that very often when people hire a contractor or a contract manufacturer, they don't have very explicit and defined goals and expectations of what they want from the contractor. If you were able to come to us, for example, and say, here is my G code, here is my part, I printed a sample with you guys 2 weeks ago, I want 1,000 more of that. That is a very easy thing to work through. However, if you say, I printed one on my Prusa back a couple weeks ago, and I kind of like the black, but I'm wondering if you guys have a better option and that kind of stuff. If you require us to solve your problems for you, it becomes a tougher thing to do because we don't know your product. It turns into an eye doctor test where we're showing options of like, do you like better one or better two? And you're like, So indecision is the thing that makes contract manufacturing and any sort of contracting very difficult, because if the client isn't aware of exactly what they want and can describe that so that we can just match it, it can be very difficult. If we're trying to poke in the dark and get closer to what you like, that can be fantastically difficult to do because we don't know what you like. And if we're not a part of your company culture and there hasn't been a really long partnership, we can't anticipate what you like or know your style or anything else from past experience. If you've wandered in the door for the very first time, we have no idea what you want, so you have to be fantastically precise about what you want. And this applies to every type of manufacturer or contractor, whether you're doing software, whether you're doing graphic design, building a website, whatever it happens to be. If you are providing a service for someone else, where you're effectively kind of doing part of their work for them, which is not a bad thing, you have to be able to understand them very explicitly. And if you as the client have to be exceptionally clear about what you want. This is why contract manufacturing is so difficult, because the devil is in the details and we can't possibly know every detail that you care about unless you tell us about it. So how do you make this successful? Well, inside of Slant 3D, what we've done over the last few years is try to segment and compartmentalize our services. Rather than saying, we print everything, we say, no, we do mass production 3D printing. We don't do prototyping. We don't do uber customizable kind of stuff. And within areas that we work in, such as promotional products, we have very defined product groups with kind of rules built around them, which makes them much easier to say, these are the rules that the client has to follow. If you want something special in there, you have to tell us. Otherwise, these be the rules. And the same thing applies for like mass production. Like, here is basic pricing, here's starting points, so on and so forth. So that it's not just, I've got something to make, what does it cost? If you have no expectation, no budget, no standards, no explicit idea other than it needs to be good, that isn't very helpful. So as a client, you need to be very clear about what you want, and then we work as hard as we can as a service to define what we can do and what we cannot do. And this is why when you get your first quote, an account engineer will try to schedule time with you to talk on the phone about what is it that you're looking for so that we have as clear of an idea of what you want as it can possibly be. But that all being said, all of that is a lot of work. To engage with a client and partner with a client and get to know them well enough to where you can produce a really good product, which is what we do, because if we're making a product for somebody to start their company on, we want to make sure that it's a fantastic product. And depending on how difficult it is to get that brain meld and mind meld, it can take longer to get set up and into production than if it's very quick. If you are very highly defined and know exactly what you want, it actually goes much quicker and the relationship is much better because we're just meeting your standards. And if we can't meet them, we can just say, can't do that. But if you don't know what you want and you're poking around and exploring still, it can be very difficult because we don't know what you want because you don't really know what you want. So contract manufacturing is the art of being very clear about what you have and then helping the client be very clear about what they need. So that is why contract manufacturing is really difficult, but also how you can kind of make it work. You have to have very clear, defined, and measurable expectations and guidelines within what you're doing, what you're gonna make, and what you're gonna deliver. And this applies to every industry. It's not just contract manufacturing. Whatever service you are providing, you might be a lawyer, you might be an accountant, you might be whatever. Just tell people what you're going to do for them and what they're getting when you hand it to them. In our case, we'll say, you're gonna get this infill, you're gonna get this layer height, and it's gonna be made on slant box machines. Here is a sample part. That is the result, and then we'll move you into a sample production to verify that's what it is. If that's not good enough for you, then we're probably not the best option. But we will go through that process and try to establish a set of standards so that you actually know what you're gonna get. Comment down below if there's other topics that you'd like to have us talk about around contract manufacturing and manufacturing in general. Also, do subscribe to the channel. We keep on publishing these almost daily anymore. So if there's some topic that you want us to cover, let us know because we got bandwidth to talk about it. Have a great day, everybody.